This is episode 148 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Welcome to episode 148 of the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. Today, I've got Joe Costanza on the show. Joe is a guy that was listening to my podcast right back at the beginning, came to one of the first meetups we ever did for the Greater Hamilton REI meetup back when we did that. Got a chance to meet him then, learn about him, and he only had one property then, and he's come quite a long way since then. So Joe has invested significantly in Hamilton doing duplex conversions, and he's also made his way up to Sudbury. In this episode, he talks about how he manages at a distance, how he's built his teams, how he has faith in himself to make decisions, and how he knows when to take action. When's the right time? A lot of people who are getting started don't really know when they're ready to make that leap, and Joe sheds light on how he's done that, and he's only in his mid-20s right now, so it's really inspiring to see how far he's come, and he's definitely got a bright future ahead of him. As always, I'm just going to ask you to please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening on one of the other platforms, please make sure that you subscribe, and if you wouldn't mind leaving a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, that'll certainly help more people to find the show. If you're new to real estate investing and you haven't already done so, go right back to episode 1 and work your way through. It really is a deal maker for a lot of people. I've heard so many success stories because of people going through these podcasts and listening to the various different successful guests that we've had on. So lots of value there, and you might as well take advantage of it. And final note before we get into the episode, if you want to grab my cash flow analyzer, you can do so on my website at andrew-hines.com. So without further ado, let's jump into episode 148 with Joe Costanza. Hello and welcome to the Andrew Hines Real Estate Investing Podcast. I have Joe Costanza. Do you go Joe or Joseph?
Joe
Costanza on the show. And he's here to talk about everything he's doing in real estate, Hamilton, Sudbury, all the fun stuff. Yeah. Sudbury, right?
A little bit of Sudbury, a little bit of Hamilton. I'm in between both right now.
Okay, yeah. So Joe, we were golfing this summer and you witnessed a good performance, one of my better performances. So we would commemorate that today, and we're having a beer in this interview. So this is interview and beer. We don't normally do that, Joe Rogan style. Cheers. But anyways, Joe, for those who are not familiar with you, tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So I started investing in real estate about 2 years ago, 2 or so years ago. And I think that's kind of roughly when we first met. But since then, I've been doing duplex conversions mostly, single family homes into duplexes. So like the typical bungalow conversions.
Yeah. Yeah, you were on that Hamilton train. I remember we talked early.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've kind of been doing that mostly the entire time. I haven't really ventured too far out of it. And I'm starting to do a little bit more of that now, just trying smaller, or not smaller, but a little different stuff.
So still bungalows in Hamilton, or?
Right now, I mean, I have a recent acquisition that is like a 1.5 story, but I'm trying to start moving more towards like the triplex or those styles.
And is that in Hamilton that you're looking for that, or is that?
Well, I'm looking for bigger places than the duplexes in both markets, in Sudbury and in Hamilton, but for Hamilton it just makes sense because you're not cash flowing anything with duplexes anymore. Like it's just, you're barely breaking.
Yeah, what are those like numbers typically looking like now? Like people are buying them for like 600 plus.
Duplexes?
Like that single family home, you're buying it for 600.
They're buying, there's like full guts that are going for like 770. Like it's ridiculous.
When people were stretching their minds around this was not even like 2 years ago, that the finished product would be worth like 650. They're like, oh, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Well, I remember, I think we were having a conversation on my second place I'd bought it, and I was like, I don't know, maybe it goes for like 620, it could go for 650. This was only like what, like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Right?
So the inventory price has been driven up, and then the end product has been driven up.
It's weird though. Not sure if I see it. I see it slowing down. I just don't see it taking a. I mean, maybe that's just me personally.
Like a correction.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see the correction. It depends like what happens with interest rates. Like if interest rates were to go up to like 5%,
that's different.
Then yes, you're going to see a correction. But doesn't mean you can't ride that wave out. Just make sure you got your cash flow.
That's
because
if
that happens to interest rates, I mean, people are going to rent instead of buy. You know, so there's still going to be demand. You still have, I would still think you'd have your demand for rents, but it'd just be a matter of riding it out.
And I think that's where cash flow is so important. And so as long as you're buying with good fundamentals, and like you say it all the time on this podcast, as long as you're buying with good fundamentals, you'll be fine.
Ride that wave. So your Hamilton, do you have just the one, or do you have more than that?
The one. So I have
duplexes.
So I have
in Hamilton.
Currently, I have 3 that are completed, and we have 1 that we just went firm on actually yesterday.
Okay, to buy some more inventory.
Yeah. So
okay.
yeah, exactly.
What's your purchase price on that one?
That one. So that one's an interesting one. It's a big house. Like it's close to 3,000 square feet. We're going to be converted into a triplex. It's already a legal duplex. And so we purchased it at $745. And we have some ARV numbers that we think will come in, or based on what things are selling for right now, we think around $9 to $950. So just based on size.
Okay, so end value $950. I'll just crunch these numbers real quick to see what you're looking at. What do you figure you'd have to renovate that for?
So this is the thing. So if we do the duplex, it'll go for $950. There's so many different avenues we can go with this, just because it's a larger property, the way it's situated, and the way that the house is actually designed, and the amount of rents that it'll bring in. But we think the renovation, if we just kept it as a duplex, would probably be about $80K. Okay. 80 to 90.
Okay, and if you are to go triplex,
if we are to go triplex, we're looking more towards the 200 mark, but
then you're going to be worth more than 950.
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
exactly.
Say it was hypothetically a triplex, what are you going to be worth?
I mean,
1.1.
I would say 1.1. That's my low estimate right now is 1.05. But I can't see it going lower than 1 for sure.
Okay, so 1,050,000 hypothetically, and then you're going to do a $200,000 reno to get there. So 200. So you're going to be in for like 945. If you're getting an 80% mortgage, you're going to be 840. So you're going to be in for a little bit, about 105,000.
Yeah. We plan to be in for a little bit on this one. Understandably, it's the cash flow on it. It's really nice. So that's the only thing that is kind of like the nice hedge with the Hamilton market, because Hamilton doesn't really cash flow as much. Like, people are buying duplexes for 900, and they're maybe breaking even on they maybe make like 300 a month.
Yeah.
This one, my projections are kind of closer to, depends on your interest rate, but 1,300 to 1,600, kind of in that range.
Okay, so that's what you think your cash flow would be?
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
So if this was rented as completed, what do you think these units are going to go for?
Triplex or duplex?
The triplex version.
The triplex version. So we have 1,600 for the basement.
Okay.
2,400 for the front unit.
Okay.
And 22 for the back, and then 200 for the rear. So what does that come out to?
What's rear, like parking or something?
Like 6,500.
Yeah, I got
the rear. There's a garage in the back as well.
Oh, okay. So you're just gonna rent out the garage.
There's a rear. So it's a 1.5 story with a rear addition.
Yeah.
And the rear addition and the 1.5 story, that's the 2 units right now. And so we're making the basement into 1 unit, and making the main story of the front house and the half story as 1 unit, and then the rear addition as another unit.
Okay, so that's how you would have your 3, and then so you said $200, or did you mean 2,000?
No, 200 for the
garage.
For the garage.
Gotcha. Okay.
And 2,200 for the rear.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, so that works out to 6,400. Now, would these all be legal units? Would you be going for a legal tri, or would it be a legal duplex plus an extra?
It would be a legal duplex plus a tri. Plus the
I mean, there's so many people doing that kind of thing in Hamilton. More there than anywhere I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. It seems to become the norm. So, what would your taxes be when you complete that?
Well, currently it's listed as a duplex, and it's the taxes on it are roughly about $3,800 a year.
Okay, so we'll just say 45 if it were to increase.
Yeah.
Insurance on that, what do you think you'll be when it's done?
Insurance on that close to like 180 a month to 200, I would assume, based on the multiple kitchens and stuff like that.
Okay, so 2,400. Now maintenance, something like that, maybe I'll leave it at 8% just to be safe. utilities, are you paying them,
No,
or will you
no,
be paying them? Nothing.
No, I don't pay anything. It's
What
all
about
gonna be on
water? Do you have separate meters?
everything's already separated because it was a duplex before.
So it actually had 2 separate meters.
Yeah, it has
so
two
will
separate
you go
meters.
for the third meter, or you'll have to subdivide
We'll
that?
probably do a split on that
splitter,
one.
yeah.
Like the way a lot of Hamilton properties are run is it's a 60-40 split for the
So you just do a set split.
So that front unit, that front main house is just going to be a 60-40 split.
So you really shouldn't have any utilities, or maybe a couple $100 on changeovers or whatever it is.
Yeah, maybe on changeovers and stuff like that,
yeah.
sure. But I kind of factor that in with my vacancy rate, so it's fine.
Right. Okay. Management, are you going to pay any, or are you just going to do it yourself?
No, I usually manage them myself.
Okay. And then landscaping, snow removal.
That's all on the tenants.
So they're doing all of that?
Yeah.
And they're cool with
There's
that?
really not much for them to do.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, so I'll just leave like a 500 miscellaneous there, like I like to, and then we said that would probably be worth 105. 105. Okay, so your cap rate on that is a healthy 5.93. That's almost 6%. That's pretty good.
Yeah, well, and compared to what's selling on the market, selling on the Hamilton market right now.
Yeah. So if you were to get 80%, as we said, you could go with 30 year AM because you can still finance that with the residential lenders. Maybe 2 point. What do you think?
I do mine usually at 3.
Okay, so we'll do 3 for safety.
Yeah. But you can do 2.5. Yeah. That's usually what I tell my investors.
Man, you're right. 1657 is what I got for cash flow here. That's a cash flow monster. So I mean, you got 100 and some odd into it. But so a cash on cash return there is actually quite healthy. Like you're going to be like around 12% or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's good cash on cash, and it's you're getting massive appreciation in Hamilton. I mean, assuming it continues. Yeah. Otherwise, you've got your pay down, which is roughly, I don't know, 3%, 2% a year. Mm-hmm. So lots of ways to win there, especially if you can hold it with the way they're printing money right now.
Yeah,
you got to imagine this seems to be a trend that's continuing, right? Housing just keeps getting more and more expensive.
Well, didn't they just raise minimum wage?
I heard the rumblings that it was going to be 15, and then I hear I just got into this on the last one, but that people are upset. Like that's not a living wage. Oh my God, you need to go $19, $20, and what happens to the price of everything?
Where do we stop?
The simple fact is, and I won't ever stop saying it, is that no one will ever pay a worker more than they're worth. So if you mandate a minimum wage, all it does is it cuts anybody who's not worth $15 out of the market. The days, think about it, people will pay to go to college, to learn, to work for free, to pay to work, but it's not okay to get paid less to work and learn. Like, I mean, if I had no skills, I wouldn't expect somebody to give me 15 if I was worth 10. I'd take the 10 and say, let me learn. I'll work overtime.
I do believe in some sort of minimum wage when it comes to stuff like that, but I think we're getting a little bit out of hand.
I've heard that Australia will do like some sort of thing like tied to your age. So if you're younger, you can make less, which kind of makes sense. Like
I think that makes
sense. Some
sense.
people live with their parents though. Like if say I was like 40 years old, lost my job or got divorced or whatever it was, and I had nothing and I didn't have any skills, or if I was new to the country, if I could live with somebody, live on their couch and apprentice as a mechanic and make $6 an hour or $5 an hour while I did it. I mean, that might be just enough to make, pay for my food until I get good at it. And then I become worth 20 an hour and 25 and 30. That opportunity at $6 an hour or $5 an hour, I know like those sound like ridiculous numbers now, but that opportunity could be worth everything to someone. There's people who are genuinely upset about minimum wage because it means they don't have a job anymore. Now we shift to automation. Those people go sit at home.
Mm-hmm. Well, because why would you pay someone something that they're not worth?
Exactly.
When
right?
you can just pay you have machinery that can do it for cheaper.
I get the notion of minimum wage, and it sounds nice. That's why people like it. Like they like the idea. Oh, that sounds. Everybody should have a living wage, and I agree. But you're asking the people who created the problem, the government, who printed the money, who did every socialist program that caused people to not want to work, to solve a problem which they have absolutely no skill at solving. So, not to detract. I love this conversation though, because I love getting into debate about it. Right? If people want to.
Oh, you have no debate from me. I mean, I think it's ridiculous, but
no, it's all good. Not to detract from your episode here, Joe. So
no.
So we're talking about the numbers on your triplex, and you're doing really well here. Now you mentioned we a few times. So does this mean that you've got
I'm
partners?
I'm in the deal with some partners right now.
So are they money partners? Do you have
money partners?
Okay, and what's your structure? Is this a typical
50-50.
structure?
Yeah, 50-50
So you
split.
have 50, they have 50?
Yeah.
Okay, and you do all the work, they just put in the money?
It's not yes, that is the structure. It's not something that I really love. I want a partner that brings a little bit more. But it is kind of a family relationship, so it's an easy split for me.
Right. Yeah. A family thing. But it can be sticky, but yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. It can be sticky, but I'm starting to with my joint ventures, I'm leaning more towards people that can bring more value.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the creativity thing. Like,
yes, exactly.
It's almost like your partners are your coaches. You know, like you boost each other up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You give each other ideas, motivation. You know, as long as you're thinking on similar wavelength. That's what I really like JVs from. I know I've talked on this show about no JVs and like whatever, which you don't need to, like if it's basic properties. But if you got the bigger stuff, like the creativity is invaluable, right? It's exponential increase in income. It's like I was just talking about this on the last one, is that, you know, it's not 1 + 1 = 2. It's much more than that. That's the good thing. Yeah. So, and you mentioned you're trying to go for bigger ones, right? So you've got those three in,
scale up a
three
little
in
bit,
Hamilton here. And
so this would be this recent would be the fourth.
Okay.
And then another 2 in Sudbury that are just refinancing right now.
Yeah. And are you partners on most of them?
Only 2 properties I'm partners on.
And those are in Hamilton?
Both in Hamilton, yeah.
Okay. So the Sudbury ones, how'd you do those? And well, first off, like what are they and how'd you structure them?
So they're very similar to my Hamilton purchases, actually. They're like brick bungalows with basement apartments. And that's basically the structure that we've been going with over there. It's just something that's easy for me to do, and I have it on a repeat system. I know exactly how to do it. I walk in, this goes there, this and done. I know the numbers back of my hand. And
are they really light renos?
One was a very easy reno. It was a great buy more than anything. And we just did a little cosmetic thing here or there, did a little upgrade, and it was done. Really just added like a washroom, moved the kitchen around. But another one, it's a full gut in the inside for the basement, and then a new basement apartment.
So, but they're both ending up as duplexes.
They're both ending up as duplexes, yeah.
Legally?
Yeah, legally.
Okay, so those are done legally. And what do your numbers look like on those? Like to buy, and then what?
Since I bought those, the numbers have gone a little bit crazy in the areas. But I guess I'll run through the second one because the first one's kind of an extreme outlier, like based on what we bought it for, based on the amount of renovation that we had to do. We just really got a great buy on it. But the second one we purchased at $345.
Okay.
We're doing a renovation of $700 or $75,000.
Okay.
For the basement, and then it should rent. The main floor should rent for 22 plus, not including utilities, and then the basement 19, not including.
They get that much?
This is the thing, though. It's a 3-bedroom in the basement as well. So there's 3-bedroom upstairs and 3. It's
That's
a big
like
house.
Hamilton rents.
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, not including utilities. Like it really does make a difference. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
So you should have really good cash flow on this.
Yes, and then there's also an attached garage that we're renting out for $200 on that property.
Okay, so that's $4,300 on that. I mean, you're basically your 1% rule on what you got into it.
Basically what we got into it, for sure.
So you're into it for about $420.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting $4,300, so you're more than 1% rule. Taxes on that place would be
$4,100, I think, round up.
Okay, insurance would keep roughly the same, like $2,400 or less?
Insurance is about 17, or 17? Sorry, not 17. Like $170 a month.
Okay, cool. So 170.
You're doing the math in your head.
12. yeah. I just type it on my.
Sorry,
Excel
I usually
sheet.
do it by monthly in my head. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll leave maintenance at 8%, and then we've got no management, right?
No, there is management.
Okay, there. What are you paying?
I do. It's a 10% management fee.
And that includes re-renting?
That includes re-renting, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so 10%, and then miscellaneous, will leave that alone. Landscaping, you don't do any of that?
I don't. They do it
inside the 10%.
No.
Extra?
So I roughly round it up to be about an $80 a month extra.
Okay, equals 80 times 12. Yeah, it makes sense that you'd have management up there. That's pretty far away.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to drive up there. And the reason I started moving more towards that direction was to be able to release myself from the properties a little bit more. Hamilton, there's just no cash flow in order to do that. I really love the Hamilton market, but there's just like for me to
manage it doesn't work.
Well, it's just it gets difficult to start scaling when you're having to deal with tenant problems, right? So I'm trying to diversify a little bit where I'm not having to manage it so much.
If you look at what's happened to Sudbury, I mean, that's gone up just as much as, maybe not just as much. I think it's up like 20% year over year. I mean, that's plenty of upside to be had in Sudbury, so you don't need to be investing necessarily in Hamilton. What do you figure that place is worth when it's done? When it's done,
we're estimating the low 500s, so I'd say like 510, 520 in that range.
Okay, and appraisers are supporting that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Now? Okay, so you're going to be in for about 12,000. So your new mortgage would be about 408. You're in for 420. So in for very little. So let's see. So we'll do an 80% 30-year, 3% interest rate just to be conservative, and you're still making $1,100 even paying a manager, right? That's what I'm talking about. Like if you can actually afford to pay a property manager that 10%, which I mean is not like astronomically overpriced or anything, especially if that includes re-renting. Otherwise, it is too much. But that's a reasonable property management rate. If they do a good job, maybe eventually they give you a little discount because they're doing a lot of your properties.
Yeah, so that's their thing. They have like after you get to a certain number of properties, give a discount. And I'm trying to work with them now because I'm trying to go a little bit more and heavy into the Sudbury purchases with some of the stuff. So we're working with them to try and negotiate a deal.
Okay. Yeah. So you're not really leaving much in there. Is that your typical attempt? Like what's the model here if you're not able to get those perfect BRRRRs? Like you're almost perfect BRRRR there. Mm-hmm. What's the model? How do you scale and continue to grow if you can't get them, or do you think you can continue to get them?
I guess that's the real question, right? I haven't had any, so this is the thing, like I haven't really had issues finding these like pretty decent properties where you're not invested a lot in. Like
I have not had an issue.
I haven't had an issue, so I don't see it being an issue. I don't know, maybe it's just what I'm picking and what I'm looking at and how I select my properties. I hear people are having issues where they're not being able to pull out as much, or they're not really able to get the same numbers that I'm seeing, but I haven't had any issues with regards to that. Like I just wholesaled the property the other day, not the other day, but back a few months ago in Sudbury because I didn't want to take on the purchase, and it was a great deal. I mean, they probably did just as well on that deal than I did on this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's still great deals to be had. So you think perfect BRRRRs are an option? It is a way.
I think so. But you have to also understand, like I probably didn't when I purchased that, it probably wasn't like when we went firm on that, the ARV wasn't 510. It was more so it was more like 480, right? So I mean, we had a little upside. Some of the market did play in our favor. But I mean, that's how the situation is working out right now.
So I guess I'm just trying to evaluate what you will do, right? Because you own these, you set it on your own, these two. There's no joint venture partner. So what's the next play, right? You're doing well, like you're getting good properties, good cash flow. How do you keep that going, or do you think you can keep it going with the money you have available to you, right? Because we all have a finite amount of money, right, before we're out. And then at that point, do you just JV, or at that point are you going to start borrowing private money?
So I'm at a unique opportunity right now where I'm starting to do more JVs at the same time that I'm doing more private money. And so like this property, for example, we went in with private financing on this one. So your number's probably slightly off because we did have like a little fee up front, like a lending fee.
Okay, whatever. So you borrowed the down payment?
Yeah. Okay. But I'm starting to get more into the JV space, looking to bring on more partners, and that's kind of part of the reason why I started going to more of the Sudbury stuff. Is because I'm getting a lot of people that are coming to me and going, I want to start investing with you, but I don't have the $150,000 or $200,000 that's required to do something like a Hamilton or London like renovation and like purchase and renovation, right? They're coming to me and they're going, I have $100,000 and I need to make this work. And it's like, okay, well, let's see what we can get you, right? And so I'm finding properties that are not too intensive of renovations. There's still a decent amount of renovations, but we're able to get in with low and out with very little invested in the property, and so they can keep doing their thing, and I manage the relationship from there.
Yeah, so you're saying the 100K could keep going, like they can put their money
in these smaller markets, your money goes further. Right.
Yeah, so you might be able to stretch that with BRRRRs, 10 properties, 20 properties, who knows? And maybe by the time you get to 10, you can go back and refinance the first one. And then you just keep rolling it forward. I mean, if things keep going up, reasonably you would.
I mean, yeah, well, let's not bank on that, but yeah, exactly.
Exactly. I always say that, like, it doesn't matter if it did. I don't bank on that. Yeah, it's got to work as it is.
And I usually run all my numbers with like appreciation at 0% because
it
we just be safe. Yeah,
exactly. Like, and I think that's what so many people don't get. Like, no, like just because appreciation's there, yes, you can build it into your numbers and you say reasonably yes, but if you need it, that's a deal breaker for me.
Yeah, exactly. If you need appreciation to make the property work, it's not a good property.
Yeah, there are others. Yeah, it means keep looking.
Yes,
it doesn't mean you couldn't make money on that.
No, yeah, you could do really well.
This is where it comes back to concentration, right? Like, what's your investment concentration in that type of deal? You don't want to have all that type of deal because if the market goes a different direction, now you're not in a good position. But somebody who's got 30 cash flow properties wants to take on one of those, no biggie. Like,
yeah, because it's not going to hurt them.
Yeah,
but someone who's buying their first, second, or third deal, like if you're banking on appreciation, something goes wrong, like
then you're out
your
of the
portfolio's gone. Like you know what I mean? Like
you're out of the game, really.
Exactly.
Tail between your legs. I mean, that's pretty much what happened to me. Like early on, I only had a couple of properties, and yes, the Canadian ones were positive, but my Ohio stuff just like tanked, and I was just, okay, I'm done. You know, like you don't want that. Fortunately, I got back in because I had so many real estate investors around me. But
but that's important, right? Like you need a network. You need
the network. Exactly. The network saved me, right? I would not be a real estate investor today if it wasn't for my network. Like my mother-in-law and my buddy Carlo, like kind of like dragged me out of the ditch and back in.
Well, that's good, right? Like that's what they're there for. That's what your network is there for, and that's why it's so important to build a network.
And so I think we met. You heard my podcast, one of the early episodes. You came to the first meetup. I'm pretty sure the very first. And that's where we met. And I think you were in Erwin's group as well. Doing that. So you've kind of built the network around here, I guess.
Yeah. That's kind of where I started. I started building my network out in the Hamilton area with the iWin group. And I really started scaling from there. I remember the first time that we met, I think I had just purchased my first place like a month before. And I remember we were talking and you're like, oh, you should, I should come see your properties, whatever. And I was like mildly embarrassed to like let you come see the property. I don't think you ever came.
No, I didn't see your property.
Because like the first one was like there wasn't really much to it. But yeah, I mean, I've grown my network from like within Hamilton. And that's where I was focused for the last little bit. And so now starting to move out from there.
So it was so important. I think, back the first meetups I did for the Greater Hamilton, I mean, those are the first Hamilton investors I'd really had the chance to meet. Like I wasn't really in that sphere of people. So that's the nice thing. Like you build it, they will come build a podcast, and now all of a sudden you're into that circle, and it's pretty cool. All the connections that were made there, and how like so many people acknowledge like it's a small world. Like these investors, you know their names, you see them on Facebook or in the groups or whatever. So very cool. So what? You talk about getting bigger and doing bigger. Like, what do you see on the horizon for you?
What do you mean in terms of what I see on the
horizon?
Deals?
I mean, we haven't even talked about what you do for income, like what your greater vision and why you're doing this is. What's the bigger picture here for you?
So it's weird because like that for me changes so much. Like it's like one day it'll be this, the next day it'll be this. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm doing this for family and stability and stuff like that. But for me, like the long-term goal that's always been in my head has been 200 units. So whether we get there or not is not really so important. It's more of the journey to get there and the growing and the opportunities that come up in searching for that. So that's kind of currently still I'm moving towards that goal, is the 200 units. But I haven't really kept it so firm in my mind. And that's because I'm constantly changing my mind. But I seem to always kind of come back to the 200 units.
What's the 200 units do?
you know what? It's weird because I know people are like, oh, you should create a why and then like go backwards and like figure it out from there. But it was just kind of like a really early like thing that I kind of committed to with myself for why I needed 200 units. But it wasn't really like a pure purpose for the 200 units. The big reason was like wanting to be able to provide like security and stuff like that for a family and stuff like that.
Yeah, like you're talking the proverbial potential family.
Yes, proverbial.
Down the road.
Well, even like just like with my immediate family right now, right?
Yeah,
like
gotcha.
we're not doing. We're all like, I mean, we're doing it for money and stuff like that. Sure, like let's not lie to ourselves, but at the same time, like there's a reason you're taking the risk that you're taking, right? And so it's not just about you. Most of the time, the people are doing really well. It's about something greater than themselves.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's funny. People will say like, this is a risk. I actually think it's a risk working a job. Look at all the people getting fired right now because they didn't comply with their mandates at work, right? Like something could never be more risky than having one source of income, right? So if you have multiple rental properties, now you have multiple bosses or multiple sources of income, we'll call it. So your tenants, they're your customers and they pay you. So
Exactly.
they're not going to fire you. They like their place to live.
Hopefully.
Yeah, give them a nice place to live and hopefully they'll like it. So I think, I've heard people say that recently, like, just what I've seen recently has made me realize how important it is to not be dependent on a job.
Oh yeah, especially in this last year.
Yeah.
Like you just think of all the people that are working full-time jobs that haven't had increase in salary and we've had this dramatic inflation, right?
Yeah.
Like you just that alone.
And our properties went up, but their incomes didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And now everything just got more expensive to them. And this is where, everyone, if you're not getting 30-40% raises a year, you're getting pay cuts every
Exactly.
year. And people don't want to admit that, but that's the problem with a currency that's not backed by anything. All you need to do is turn on the printer. That's really
that's it. Yeah.
That's where we find ourselves. So
yeah. And so I think that was part of the reason, right? Like diversification, trying to get a little bit more security for myself. And I think I realized very early on when I was like 21, starting my first full-time job, it was like working for someone else is not for me.
Yeah.
I need to find a way to make money.
Is that on your radar to quit that?
Yeah. Currently I'm still working a full-time job, but it's kind of, I have a commitment that I'm going to be out by 30. And I'm well on the way to being out by 30.
Yeah.
And
especially
so
if you keep getting those $1,700 property cash flows.
Yeah. So we're kind of moving in that direction right now.
Okay. And so obviously retiring yourself's part of it, financial stability long term. I just posted this on my story this morning, which I saw it when I was just scrolling. The highest form of wealth is being able to wake up in the morning and say, I'll do whatever I want today. I'm paraphrasing, but I can do whatever I want today. And that sums it up for me. If somebody asks me what my why is, that's it. Like just any day, no one's going to tell me what to do. I'm going to get up. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to make commitments that I want to make, and I'm going to take on contracts that I want to take. But
you do things for yourself.
Right. Whereas the other people, I got to be there by 9 a.m. because this is my job. I mean, yeah, we've all been there, but I think being there and acknowledging, hey, this is not the way.
Yeah, I think there's like that. Yeah. What's that saying? There's no point of a Rolex if it tells you what time to have lunch.
Yeah, never heard that one, but that makes sense. Yeah, it's a different way of thinking, right? Like, but I think most of us get that. I don't know what's your take on this space? Like most people in our network kind of get that. We were sort of lied to in school, like, go to college, go to university, get a good job. I think that's a total lie. I think that the idea that, you get a good pension and retire one day, it's total lie.
But there's a lot of people that still believe in it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think for us, it's different because we're around those people all the time. Like we're around the entrepreneurs, the people who are trying to do their own thing. So the people that I associate with, the people that you associate with, that's the mentality is like, I'm doing things for myself because I want to have a better future for myself. I want to have more freedom. I want to have more time. Whereas if you weren't associating with those people, you don't have that same influence, right? And so you may feel alone in that sense. But I think that's where kind of building the network becomes important, right? And it helps to shape your mindset.
How do you do that now? How do you build networks now? I guess some groups are starting to open back up in terms of.
I think things are opening back up, but I think staying just active even on social media helps to build that network.
Yeah, the if you build it, they will come. I think if you're sharing what you're doing on Insta and stuff, like people will reach out. I've been doing a terrible job of that lately.
I'm trying a little bit more. Trying to do a little bit more on the socials.
I mostly just stick to politics. Things I shouldn't. But yeah, in all seriousness, I'm sort of unfiltered. I think people know me that way. Whatever.
But that's fine. If that's who you are, then that's who you are, right?
Right. At least it will be no BS with it, right? And I do think there's some important stuff, like for those who are wondering, like, yeah, there's just some important things lately that I think just need to be said. So I say them, but not a lot of people want to hear it. Maybe they do. I don't even know, right? Because sometimes I don't hear a lot of feedback on some of the stuff I say. And then sometimes I hear everybody saying, yes, just ridiculous, whatever. So anyways, not to get too tangent here. So you're in Sudbury. You found yourself a contractor there. Like, how did you put that together? How much time did you have to spend up there? Like, tell me the story of how that all unfolded.
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, like reaching out to people who you know are investing in the area and building out a team from that. The contractor that I have out there is kind of through the networks that I have, I found him, and so we're able to work together because we kind of have a similar mindset when it comes to investing. He does his own stuff as well, but he hasn't done a lot of the duplex conversions, and so we're working with each other. I'm teaching him how to do the duplexes, and he's kind of giving me like a good rate for what we're doing, and so we have a good kind of partnership going on right now. And even with some of the stuff, like he's purchased a bungalow recently that he's converting, and with my background in architecture, like I did the drawings for him for free, right? Like we have a good relationship, and so
Do you have your license for BCIN?
No, I don't, but I mean, I usually just do my drawings, have someone else stamp them. I mean, I shouldn't really say that, but you know.
So he just said I did it myself.
Yeah. So you can submit as an owner with drawings, right?
And you just have to say you did it yourself, right?
Exactly. So he just went in and submitted. I mean, I haven't had any issues with my submissions. I mean, it's pretty cookie cutter. Every city wants to see the same information, right? You just have to adjust it for the bylaws of that area. But I mean,
do you do all your own drawings?
I do still, but I'm starting to get away from it.
Yeah, because it's a lot of time.
Yeah,
right?
it's time, and how much is your time worth, and really balancing that out.
But you can get it exactly as you want. That's the nice thing, right? Like if you're the guy doing the designs, like I can mock stuff up. So I guess at the end of the day, I can get it too. I'm not interested in learning CAD. So
I usually, like, even if I'm starting, I think with this new place, I'm probably not going to do like the actual drawings myself, but I'll do all the design. I'll figure out where every room goes and really organize it.
So you'll just explain it and then have somebody else do it.
And then basically draw it out and have someone else do it for me.
Yeah.
And it's just, when I look at my, like the time, like the value of my time, it just makes sense.
Yeah. So is that what you're doing for a daily right now? Are you doing design?
No. So I work with developers right now. I do project management. So I'm on sites building like high-rise towers and managing the construction of those.
So that's lots of lots of complementary benefits to what you're doing in that, right?
Yeah. No. There's definitely like a lot of crossover traits that really help
just managing project management.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the beautiful thing is you're not even really doing it, right? You're hiring somebody else to manage your build, right? There you have a GC. I still think those are good skills to have, though, because now you can spot what makes sense and what doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
You can smell BS. That's a great skill to have. I was just talking to the builder in Florida yesterday for a half an hour on the phone, like kind of pressing a little bit on industry stuff and seeing how they responded, and they did well, and it made me have a level of confidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gives you the ability to kind of quiz them.
Yeah.
And then kind of
feel them out for how credible and how good they are.
Because you understand how the process should work. Right.
Yeah, and I look for the hesitation. Is there a hesitation, or is it an immediate response? Because the hesitation means they have to think about it. If it's an immediate response, that means they're in this business, and it's not. It's second nature to them, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's the key, right? That's why you got to know a little bit about what your business is, even if you're not taping the drywall, but you know what it looks like.
Yeah,
you know how tape looks.
Yeah.
Like a good job versus a bad job, you can see that. So. Super important for sure. So the next 2 years, what do those look like for you?
The next 2 years. So we're gonna probably close out this year with five purchases. That would be my third year of investing, and then target is 8 for the following year. So trying to get to somewhere close to 15 to 18 units in that range as of 2 years.
Units or properties?
Sorry, 18 properties.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, in that range, 15 to 18 properties in that range.
Yeah. And majority will still be owned by you?
The plan is to have majority owned by me, but the ones that I do have in partnerships are going to be strategic partnerships. And so I'm looking to bring on more people. It's just a matter of finding the right fit, right? I've had people come to me and be like, hey, listen, like I have this, I want to do this. And I look at them and I'm like, it's just not a good fit.
But you're looking for people who are going to add something and go on the mortgage and put in the money, right?
Well, this is the thing. Like, if you have such a complementary skill that like you can lessen some of my workload, I don't mind coming up with some of the cash or going on the mortgage or whatever, right? Like, it has to be, the relationship has to be mutual, right? And so if you can bring something to me, like maybe you want to manage the property long term, okay, well then, or you want to manage the project manager who manages the property, right? Like, okay, great. Like, then you take that side. I'll work on the renovation. Maybe I'll finance it. You bring the money, right? Like, it's not so cut and dry, right? It's not always a 50-50 split, money partner and working partner. I think having a healthy balance where both kind of get involved a little bit is good. I mean, the typical relationship always works, but it's where does the value get added?
Right. It's like, for instance, on my Florida stuff, it wouldn't make sense for me to take a partner on that stuff because I'm not really doing that much, and it's pretty straightforward, right? Whereas if there was more opportunity to be creative, then all of a sudden it would make maybe more sense to have that partner in there, or to split up roles. So yeah, so I think it is really case by case, and so that's kind of going to be your approach going forward. If it makes sense, you'll take them on.
Yes.
Are you going to be going after 10 plexes, 20 plexes, or what?
Currently the goal is to stay under the 4, so in the 3 to 4 range. But I would not be surprised if long term I start taking on the larger, like, apartment style places.
Okay, and how are you going to keep growing your 6 properties now? Eventually the banks start getting a little squeamish unless you're structuring it right. So what are you doing to structure yourself so that you can continue to grow that way?
So I've started, I have a holding company and I buy my properties into the holding company. And I think that's probably the one area where I need to improve, is really kind of take a step back, look at my whole portfolio and say, oh, how am I going to get from point A to point B?
Yeah.
And what can I do now to set myself up? And that's something that I'm still working on, I think. I still have to iron that out.
So you can finance those commercially in the corp. You could do that.
That was the thought, yeah.
Yeah, you could just do a blanket. Well, it's not a blanket, but it's part of a portfolio. And then if you're over 4 units, you can do it commercial, so 5 units more.
Yeah.
So you could do that. Or if you want to stay with the res lenders, you can just do a new company went for, like 5, right? Like, if Scotia allows 10, do 10 with Scotia in one company. And they don't know about the other company that has. I mean, I've seen investors do this. I can't recommend anything, but hey, people are doing it. Need to know basis is kind of how I think about it.
Yeah. I think I'm still having, for me, I have to still iron that out. So I don't know if I have an answer for you on that, on how that kind of, let's say, the next 5 years is going to look for me.
All right. So if you have JV partners in there on the deal, it's not, then it doesn't affect you as long as you own through a corp. Like, it depends, right? Because if you're sending, like, if company A owns all your properties and that's what you send to the bank, and they see your tax return for that, and they see that, oh, hey, you own all these properties, but it says you own 4 more, show me what they are, and you're like, oh, well, those are JVs. It leads to more questions. So I think, you have to talk to your accountant, like, what kind of separation can we reasonably do? Should we have a separate corp for all my JVs?
Yeah.
And then one that's for my own, like, just kind of setting stuff up like that. I'm not saying I have the answer. I think that's just a conversation to have.
No, and I think that exactly. I think one thing that I'm looking to do more of is just, like, taking on more professional advice when it comes to long-term scaling. I've been so focused the last 2 years or so on the next year and like the year after that, then I haven't really looked the 5-year mark and how do I structure everything for that 5-year mark. And so that's kind of the next steps for me is, okay, so how do we make this sustainable, grow long term, and bring people on as we do that?
Well, you're already doing well, right? You're on track. Yeah, and then I was just going to be refining it. Like if I had early on in my investing, like what you have now and the network and the advice, and like, I think I would have done things a lot differently. So I think you're already moving, man, you're growing fast. I know it might not seem like it to you,
it seems slow, but yeah,
you're doing well. It's
I
great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And just the fact that you're willing to just jump to Sudbury and make it work, and that you've made it work so well while working full time, that's not a small task.
I've never really looked at it. I don't really take much time to step back and look at it. But I think the one lesson I've learned from going off and doing the Sudbury stuff is sometimes you just have to start, but you have to take a leap of faith in yourself, right? And so I've kind of come to the understanding that if I feel that I can find the answers, then it's worth going for. Yeah. Because I'll find the answers as I go through.
And eventually you got to get to that point, right? Like all of my major points of growing, I didn't have all the answers. I had a lot of them, but I didn't have all of them.
You're not going to have them all when you start though, right? And like I didn't when I went off to Sudbury, like I didn't have a realtor, I didn't have a property manager, I didn't have a contractor out there. Like I found everything.
So did you drive up before you had anything, or did you just reach out to people?
No, I reached out to people.
Did you buy a property before you had?
No, I had a realtor. So this all I had before I even got up there was a realtor.
Okay, someone so that realtor I trusted helped you find a property manager contractor.
Yeah, so someone that I trusted through the network.
Okay,
right?
So that's critical, right? You don't want to just dial random realtors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No.
Because then they're not going to be investor focused to be like, yeah, we can do that. You'll never find you'll rarely find a realtor that'll say, no, we don't do investments, or we can't do that. You will find some. Some will say straight up, I don't do that, but yeah, it's good approach, right? You're working through the network, and I think that's so critical. Otherwise, I think you got to start with property managers. But the important
thing there is that you don't have to have all the answers. You just need to have enough confidence in yourself to be able to find the answers. And so moving to Sudbury for me, like taking that initial jump was just having the confidence in myself that I will find a way to do this, even if I don't have a way right now.
I like it. Yeah, I like it. And that's that burn all the bridges behind you, Napoleon Hill's thing. Yeah. Like you're going to be successful if you leave no way for going back, right? Exactly. If you sign the contract, you're going to have to find a way. Yeah. Yeah. You can. You don't have all the answers, but you're going to have to find a way.
I don't know how much of it is ignorance and how much of it is just confidence in myself, but I think that's just been like, even with my first purchase, it's been like a reoccurring theme. It's just like, take the leap of faith before you're ready. And then things end up working out if you work hard enough.
Oh man, it's working. Keep it up. Do you have other stuff that you wanted to specifically cover today? I know you had sent me some stuff before.
No, not specifically. I think we've covered a lot of the major topics.
Yeah, it tends to just go there. Yeah, the good stuff comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you just crack a beer and then you get there.
Exactly.
You get there somehow. Okay, Joe, any words of wisdom before we wrap up here you want to share with people?
I think for a lot of people, taking the first step is the hardest part. And so if anyone's listening that's kind of like on the fence about, hey, how do I start? Just start. It's less scary than you think it is, especially once you're in the water. Like just get in.
Get in. Yeah, preferably, make sure you've got good advice. You've got good people around you. But then I think it's like that 80-20, right? I know about 80% of what I feel like I need to know. That other 20%, I'm going to have to figure it out while I go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people are also, they compare themselves. Like people may see like the properties that we went through today and go, oh, I can't find anything like that. Yeah. Right? And they get discouraged and they're looking for that property that is perfect, that makes sense. It's like sometimes you just need to get on base. You just need to
it doesn't need to be the perfect one.
Exactly.
Because who you meet on that first property, even if it's not a grand slam, leads you to the people you need for the grand slam.
My first property was not a grand slam. It was a solid, like maybe single hit, double at best.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You got to get going, right? Because it's like
get the ball rolling.
Newton's law, like an object in motion stays in motion. Getting in motion is so critical. And then when you're out of motion, and I've been there, and up until recently, I felt like I was there. Just had to make a move again, right? So that was part of the Florida stuff, and then recently with the trailer park, and And
Oh,
I'm gonna be
really? You
doing
did
some,
a trailer park?
yeah, I firmed up.
I'm waiting
on
for
one.
that episode to come
Firmed
out.
up. Yeah, I'm launching that one. That's on Sunday. Yeah. And you can see here all my rants. So anyways, Joe, where do people reach you if they want to follow up?
You can reach me on Instagram or Facebook. It's Joseph Costanza. It's full name, just as it's spelled.
Okay, I will include that in the show notes. And yeah, man, good that we finally did this. Glad we could put it together.
I do appreciate being on here. I've been listening since I started. So
yeah, right. Since you were there,
the
I have the evidence. Yeah. So yeah, and I appreciate you had helped me out with some stuff a little while back. So it's been good to get to know you and have the interview with you.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Please make sure to share this episode far and wide. Help it help more people. I really appreciate you tuning in. I'll see you on the next one.